I've gone ahead and cut out all the construction pieces for the desk tidy. This is my main set done. These are my tall and short box. I've got my long shallow box and my pencil box. So I've already pre-cut these out. And just as a suggestion, what I would do with your construction board is cut out all the big bits first and then use the leftovers or what's remaining to cut out all your smaller pieces, so you'll get the most out of your construction board. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a start on our main. I always label everything and I just write the measurements on here as well, so that when I come to do this I know exactly where I'm at. And I love my little clips. I know I've talked about them before. But anyway, so let's make a start. So on this one, we've got the front, we've got a back, and we've got a base, and then we've got the two sides. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut the sides down. So let me just get my smaller little mat out, because that would be ideal for this. Okay, so the measurements I've put on here is 1 inch and 2.5 inches. So we're going to come in at 1 inch and we're going to come up by 2.5. So let me just grab my ruler. I'm just going to measure that at 1 inch. So what I do is I just draw a line there so I can really see where that is, and 2.5 inches coming up from the base. Now, because this is a square, this piece, it's 5 inch by 5 inch. It doesn't matter which sides you do this, but they need to be adjacent to one another, because what we're going to do now is is just line that up. Now you can draw a pen line on there first, so you can make sure you've got your measurement accurate. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with the knife. I'm just going to cut that. Right, here we go. I'm just going to slice this down like so. See how we get on with that. There we go, not quite cut through. I think I need to change my blade at some point. Right, so that's one side done, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other one. So I'm coming in at 1 inch and coming in at 2.5 inches. Just line this up like so. There we go. And I'm just going to bring this across. Right, okay. So say measure twice, cut once, isn't it? So just make sure that everything is tickety-booing. Okay, and now I'm just going to get my ruler, make sure I've got that lined right up on there. Okay. All right, so I'll pop those bits in. So they're my two sides done. Okay, so let's just pop these back out of the way because we don't need those anymore. Oh, let's get my little box out of the way. Right, okay, so putting these together, I'm going to be using the lovely construction tape. If you get it from Cool Cat's Craft, they call it tiger tape. But yes, so that's what I'm using. I've got my base, my back, my front, I'm just lining this out, and my two sides, which when you put these down will need to be opposite. Okay, so you've got the angle going the right way. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to adjoin these all to the base. Now what I need to do is make sure that I leave a little gap between each fixture so that when it folds up, it's going to allow that bit of movement. So that's what we're going for. So let's start off with the tape. We're going to stick everything to the base. So I'm just going to put the tape along the bottom first. Let's just snip that. I can tidy up afterwards on my bits. Right, okay, so that's the base. Right, I'm just going to flip that over. Okay, and I'm now going to just like, now you can either hold it so it sort of sits like that, so you know you've got the thickness, and drop it down so it gives you a rough gap there. Okay, and now I've done that, I can just tuck those ends round just a little bit, and I'm going to run tape going along that now. Now I've got the gap in place, I'm going to just give myself a little bit of extra just to wrap round like so. I'll just snip that off. Okay, I'm just going to flip that back, wrap that round, and wrap that round, because these ends will get covered anyway when we do our paper and stuff. So let's just see, and that now folds up and will sit quite nicely. Okay, right, now we've got that one done, we're going to do the back. So just to make it easier for you guys to see, I'm just going to cut myself a strip. And I'm going to get my fingers off it. It's always sticky, this stuff. Right, okay. And I'm just going to line that on there. Okay, and now the back again. I'm just putting, pressing it up against that edge, and now I can bring that down. That just gives me the gap that I need for that. Now what I would say is that I am taking these measurements so that the board sits on the outside of the base. Okay, if you do them so that they sit on there, so that like this edge sits on there, it's going to slightly put out your measurements when you come to put it together, but you just need to be consistent with that all the way through. So we're just going to cut that, just going to flip that over, and I can now bring that over and bring that one over like so. Okay, so we've got our back, our base, and our front. Okay, so these will come up and these will sit nicely on the base like so. Okay, now the sides. Now the sides are a little bit trickier because obviously we've already got the base attached. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's turn this over, make sure I've got the sides coming in the right way. I'm going to put the tape on this bit first, so let's just cut a strip. Right, I'm just going to hold that in situ, and there we go. And by now I've got a rough idea of what sort of gap I need to leave. Now I need to line up the base and the sides together. So let me just make sure I've stuck that round on the right one. Actually, no, I haven't. It needs to be that way round. Okay. This is why we double check. It should be, because it's coming up that way, so it should be that bit at the bottom. There we go. Right, okay, now I'm bringing that in with the gap. So that holds that in place, so when that comes up, that's going to sit right there. There we go. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is on these bits here, I'm just going to cut this at an angle. So I can just wrap that bit round on there and take that little bit over on there. And then we're going to do the same. Now, if you've seen any of my videos before where I have the construction board where I colour in the corners with a Sharpie pen, then you know you can do that, and that will make sure that you've got all your corners covered in nicely. But I've not done it on here. I think I was too eager to show you how to make this right. Okay, but we should be okay. But otherwise I would, you know, if you're new to sort of building sort of 3D projects, then I would suggest that you do that. So I'm just going to pop that on there like so, and I'm just going to show you what I mean. So like my little Sharpie pen, I would sort of colour in those corners like that, so that if I miscut the construction tape, you wouldn't see the construction board underneath. Right, okay, let's take those in. Right, I'm going to fold this over like so, and we're going to do the same on that one. That one's just going to fold over, and then I can just fold those other bits over like that. Now, because this is a tricky corners on these particular ones, I'm going to just give that a quick colour in. Okay. All right, let's just make sure. I should have done these beforehand, but here we go. We live and learn, don't we? Right, I think that one's okay. That one's covered in okay. And that one's covered in okay. So, note to self to do that when I do the other bits. Right. Okay, so here we go. So now, again, I'm going to take the tape, but I'm going to take it a lot longer than what is needed, so I've got a good wrap around. Because what I found was when I first made this that some of the edges were peeling back, and I want to make sure that we've got these secure underneath our papers. So I'm just going to run that along on those. Let's turn that over, and I'm going to snip in at an angle like so, and I'm just going to wrap that one over and wrap that one over, so that when we come to put our papers and everything on there, it's going to cover that, but it's going to hold them in place as well. I'm just going to tuck that one round and tuck that one round, and here we go. I'm going to put that one in there, that one in there, and we've got one more corner to go. So this is our base of our box. Okay, right, now that we've got our base attached to our sides, we're going to just bring up these and just see how they're all sitting. That one needs to come out a little bit, so I want to make sure that these are all level with the measurements, because if they weren't, now's the time that I would need to trim any down, but they're all looking pretty good to me. So that's how our box is going to come together. So what we need to do now is tape up the sides. Okay, so there's no easy way of doing this, really. It is a little bit fiddly, but what I do is I take the tape, run that down. I'm going to cut that off in the bottom like so. I'm not too worried about it not coming at the top, because we will go round and put new tape there. I'm just going to fold that bit back. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on this side. just going to take that tape, run that down. Like so, just bring that over that edge a little bit. Here we go. And I'm going to fold that one back. Okay, I'm just putting in a crease so that when it comes to bring these sides up, they're going to stick. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on these two smaller bits. Okay, just cut that as close as we can to the top. Bring that back a little bit. And there we go, and then the last bit. All right, so we've just done our four sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to bring up this one. Now I can see already. I'm just going to snip that bit so it comes in and around. So let's just snip that other one. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to fold that round. That's going to come up, and I'm just going to align that. And once I've got that square, I can now push in that tape. Okay. All right. Now I always do the insides first, because if I need a little adjustment, I can do that on the outside. It makes it easier. All right. I'm just bringing this one up. And again, just looking how I've got that. So that's coming out on the side. All right, that's holding that in place. I'll just run my fingers down there. Right, okay. So there's our back bit done, and then the inside. So I'm just going to snip that bit there. I'm just snipping along where the fold is coming, so that bit will stick. And then as this comes up, there we go. Now, there we go. Right, let's bring that bit up. So trying to bring these both up together. That's it. Right. And these need to go on the inside. Okay, so just tucking that in on there, and this one just going to, again, very gently, right, bring that round, and this is going on the inside. Okay, right, so now we've got those stuck on the inside like so. I can just check that. I can use my bone folder just to sort of flatten any bits of the tape that haven't stuck down. There we go. Make sure they're all nice and secure. And now we've got our basic box shape. I can now run the tape coming down each of the sides, and then we'll run the tape all the way around at the top. So let's do the sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, just overlap this, so I've got a little bit going either side, because I want a fairly long bit to tuck underneath so I don't get any bits. That's it, right, so that like that, and then I can come up and I can cut down the middle, and now I can fold. So I've got long ends on there so that when that folds down. Now on this one here, I'm just going to taper that slightly, because I don't want that edge hanging out over here, if you get my drift. Okay, and then the top one, just going to snip down and literally just fold those in and over like so. Okay, and then we're going to do exactly the same on the other three. So just run the tape along, give myself a little bit of a length either side. Okay, now we fold that round, and this is where you can really sort of pinch in your lovely corner. Make sure that it's looking good. Okay. Oh, that one's stuck to itself. Let's just peel that off a little bit. It's good tape, this stuff. Do you know what? I'm just going to snip that bit off. Okay. The beauty of working with tape. Right. Okay. And then we're going to come across here. And again, I'm going to cut that down. I'm just going to fold that over that edge. But as I said, I'm not overly worried because these edges will be covered in a minute. Right, okay, let's just make sure that that is all lined in. So you can obviously take your time doing this. Okay, I'm just showing you how I do it. You might have an easier way of doing this, but at the end of the day, the end result is that it's all stuck together, and that's what we want. Okay, I'm just going to snip it there. And snip it there. So that one is going to fold over. This one, I'm just going to taper that a little bit so I get a nicer finish on that corner. Like so. And then our top one, oh, I've already cut that. Okay, and then that's just going to fold over and fold over. And then our final one at the front. There we go. And then we are all done. And this is our basic box sides sorted. Okay, I'm just going to bring that down like so. Make sure that that's sitting nice and flush. Let's snip base. Right, that one goes down. Actually, that one sits in nice across like that. And here we go. And then our last couple. Right, so that one can go over, and that one goes over like that. Right. So now we've done the inside and the outside of our sides. That one there just needs a little. There we go, and that's better. Just check to see what they look like. They don't look too bad. And now we're going to run the tape going round. And what I'm going to do is do this in strips. Now, because I've already got a bit of tape covering in the corners where we folded those over, I can take the tape right up to that edge either side. I don't need to do an overlap on there. So just going to sit that on the top. Run my finger along there, so it's a little bit fiddly, but that's it. And now I can snip that bit off. So I'm just going to run my finger along like so. Run that along. There we go. So now you can see that edge, and now I can come in and come down. There we go. I'll smooth that all out. Now these will be covered obviously in patterned paper and that. If you've got any little air bubbles, then just use your bone folder just to give that a little burnish. There we go. Right, so that's the front bit done. Now the sides, coming up on the sides, we're going to come up, but we've got a slightly funny angle. So you could either do them separate, or as I'm going to do, I'm just going to do it all in one go. So I'm just going to take that round. Let's just trim that bit off at the top. See how that can come off just a little bit more. Right, okay. And what I'm going to do is run my finger along that edge down. Now I can see where I need to put a snip in here. It's just where that point crosses over. So I'm just going to snip either side. Okay, and I'm going to do that small one bit first. That's gone in, and now I can come down and do the rest of that. Here we go. And that's now finished that side off beautifully. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Put the tape. Right, okay, let's see how I need to cut that. Oops, nearly lost some bone folder then as well. So I'm just going to run my finger down. That's just going to sit in there. I'm just going to do a snip and a snip. Like so I'm going to put these two little ones down first. Okay, and now I can come along and do the longer side. Okay, and just the back piece now. I'm just going to pop that on. So again, just taking it up to that edge. I'm going to run that along, cut that off. It's easier as well to cut it with a pair of scissors because it will give you a nice straighter edge on that. Okay, I'll just run my finger all the way along there, and now I'm just going to ease that down into each corner. Okay, and there we are. We have our base box done. So once that is done, we've just now got to make all the other little boxes that will go into that. So let's just put that to one side, and then we'll work on our next boxes. Right, we're going to start off with our little box, our little small square box. Okay, now the base 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, and then I've got 2 1/4 by 3 inch sides, so that means it's going to come up by 3 inches for our box. Okay, and I'm going to use exactly the same method that I did with the main box. Okay, so I'm going to put tape round the base. So we're just going to cut one strip first. Okay, let's just turn that upside down so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to put that on there like so, with a little bit of an overhang as it were. And then I'm just going to put my side on there, bring that down because that's where I know that's going to go. And now I can wrap that bit round either side. And then I'm going to put some tape going across. So I've got enough going to wrap around the other side. Okay, just going to tuck that in and around. Okay, so that's our first side in situ. Okay, and then we're going to do the opposite one. I always seem to do opposites and then opposites again. Just find it easier to handle, but everybody's different. Okay, right. So again, just going to put that bit on the side there. Bring that down. All right, and then we're just going to bring that over and over. Okay, and then just another little bit of tape to secure that on the other side. There we go. Now, because this is quite a small little box, to be able to get into it to put our papers in when we sort of put our black cardstock on the inside, it's going to be relatively easy to do that. Okay. But when we come to do the big long toolbox, there I will be showing you something a little bit different on how I'm going to put that one together. So again, I'm just going to line that across, put the side in. I've got a rough idea now of the gap. Didn't quite give myself enough for a wrap over on that one. But the next one I'll make sure has got that. Okay. There we go. Plenty on that one. There we are. Right. Okay. And then again, these corners, I'm just going to cut at a diagonal. So I can fold it around, and that gives us that nice coverage. Okay, just checking to see how they are putting together. Okay, that's not too bad. All right, and then on the final side. Now, although I've given you measurements for the box sizes that I do, if you wanted to make a bigger desk tidy box, then just make sure that whatever you take your box up by, you do it for all your other little boxes. So if you take this up by, say, 1/2 inch, just make sure all your measurements are going to work as well. What I have done with this particular box is that I've allowed for about, I would say about 1/8 of an inch wiggle room once these sit inside the box, just to, you know, make it easier for people to sort of take their goodies inside and out. Now, obviously, this desktop tidy can be used for anything, really. I haven't really sort of talked about that. I've just, you know, we've just got on with the construction, but that's what I love about a desk tidy. They're so versatile. And if you're like me, who's got lots of lovely craft stash, you're always looking for something to put your goodies in. Okay, right, so that's our little box. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that these sides are sitting nice and flat. See, so the idea of giving ourselves a little gap is that we can manipulate the sides just a little bit if we need to, just so we get a good clean cover on that. Right, let's have a little look. 1, 2, 3, and the fourth side. So they're all going to match up. Okay, so like I did before, just going to take some tape, about a 3-inch strip, because the sides are 3 inch. I'm just going to take that up. Okay, I'm going to fold that one back on itself, and again about a 3 inch strip. There we go. Right, we're just going to tuck that one up, fold that one over, and then we're going to do the same on this side. Oh, that's not quite straight. I must have cut that a little bit wonky. Let's just take that off. There we go. Right, and then we're going to do the same on this side. And I'll do the same on this side. There we go. And we can get these all put together fairly easily. I'll cut that one a little bit short, but I'm not overly worried because we'll have some going on the other side. Okay. Right. So now we've got our 4 sides done. We're going to bring these up and we're going to join this in. Now you might find it easier because we're working with slightly smaller items to use your bone folder to help you get in there and get a good smooth finish. Just going to snip those bits over. Okay, that one's going to come up. That's it. I'll just make sure that that sticks on and just snip that. Okay, just fold those little bits over, and then our last 2 bits got to come up together, which is always a little bit fiddly, but I think we are there. I'm just going to get the bone folder, go in and do that on the other side. Okay, so we've covered the insides of our sides, and now we're going to do our outsides. I'm just having a look here just to see how these sides are fitting in with one another. Now, because they are all the same size of the width, I just want to make sure that I've got the gaps going the way that I need them to. There we go, and try and make that as square as possible. Okay, right. And exactly as we did before, I'm going to just overrun that a little bit. There we go. Fold that round. Okay. Right, and now we're going to snip these in, and then we're just going to repeat for all the other sides. That one, I'm just going to take a little bit off there. That can come down in on there. It's a bit like a rinse and repeat job, this. But you get the idea. And this is basically how I put all the other boxes together as well. Okay. And we're just going to come up and again. So already, as I'm putting this together, I'm thinking of what papers am I going to use? What am I going to use this for? What am I going to put in here? I mean, actually, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I know I said about us having this for like crafty stash and that, but this, you could make this for a really like lovely Mother's Day gift or something along those lines. I was commissioned to make one of these for a friend of mine for her grandson who wanted it to put all his bits in on his desk, and he's really into gaming, so got some gaming paper and I decorated it with that, and he absolutely loves it, you know. And so that's what I love about when you make things like this. You can personalize them to the person that you're making it for, you know. And it is what I class as a real bespoke gift, you know, because one, you've taken, and it means that you've spent time making it. You've, you know, put your time and effort and love into making this for somebody. And you know, by utilizing papers and stuff, you know, and decorating it with things that they really love, I just think it's a lovely idea. Okay, right, so we're now on to our fourth and final side, and then again it's just the top. Oh, it's twisting. There we go. I'm just going to tuck that in there. Okay. Right. Now I know, before you say anything, my corners I know aren't completely flush. But by the time we've decorated it, I'm sure it will look absolutely fine. Right, okay. Coming over and tucking that in and just giving that a good burnish. And I'm looking at it and it's relatively square, which is what I'm after. Okay, and now we're just going to go around the top. So I'm going to do each side on its own. Oh, overcut that one a little bit. Let's just trim that down. Here we go. And we're just going to finish off our top edge so it all fits, and it's going to look lovely when we come to decorate it. Okay, tuck that in on there, like so. I mean, if you were brave, you could have gone around and done all the sides in one go, but I just find it's easier to do it this way. I've overshot that one slightly. Let's bring that in. Cut off that end of it. There we go. Oops. And voila. And our final side. Make sure that's not got this. Okay, and then what we will do is we will line this little box with black cardstock. Okay, and then obviously you can decorate the outside. So let's just bring our main box back in. So that now just tucks in and sits in that corner there. Okay, our next one is our short side one, which is going to be exactly the same way of what we did for this one. So I'm going to make that one up, and then I will show you what to do with the long side, or the toolbox, because we're going to do something slightly different with that, and our pencil box. Right, so I've made up the long shallow box exactly the same as I did for the little square one, and as you can see, these just tuck in just nicely, and they give you a little bit of wiggle room at the front. That's going to allow for our patterned paper to go on, and for the paper to go on the inside of the box as well. And I've also just I've cut out all the little black bits to go in, so that's not done right. But I wanted to show you how to do the tall one, because the tall one is going to be a little bit tricky. As you can see, it is quite tall and you're not going to get your hands inside that. So let me just put all the black bits there. So I've already cut out the black bits of cardstock for this, because what we're going to do is when we build this together, we are then going to stick the black bits in before we finish making our box. So again, I'm going to start with the base. I'm just going to cut some, oh, let's put my glasses on, that's it, I can see what I'm doing now. And right, I'm just going to tuck that in on there. I'm going to do that on the opposite as well. Okay, tuck that in on there. And I'm going to put the sides on, and again I'm leaving the same sort of gap that I have done on the others. So we're just going to pop that on that one on, where are we? That's it, get you there. Just making sure that you're lining up with the base, like so. Okay, I've cut those a little bit short, but they're fine, they can tuck round. And then we're just going to cut some longer strips just to wrap round. So that will now go all the way round and hold that in situ, like so. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. There we go. So exactly the same as we've done before. Okay. I'm just going to wrap that one round. There we are. Okay, so that's coming up for our box. And then we're going to do the same on the other sides like we did. So we're just going to wrap that on there. And put one on the other side. Go. Wrap that one on that side, like so. I'm just going to pop these again, just making sure I'm lining them up and giving them enough gap. Okay. Here we are. Just tuck that up. Oh, stick down there. There you go. Right, okay. And then we're just going to cut these diagonal like I did before. There we go. And then we can just fold those over. There we are. That's that one. Up one. Go. Just get these done. Oops. Let's straighten you out a bit. There we go. Tuck that right in. And there. And then we're just going to put the tape across like we did before. So I'm just going to tape you across. Give me a little bit extra to go over that so it can wrap around the other side. Okay, and again I'm just going to cut these in diagonals, just do one at a time. It's getting a little bit fiddly now. Right, okay, push that down and that down and that one down. There we go. Right, okay, and I'm going to tuck those round. There we are. Okay, and the final one, just tuck that round and tuck that round. Okay, so that is our base done. Now what we're going to do is like we've done before, we would have pulled these all up, just check to make sure they're all sitting nice and flush with one another. Okay, and we're going to do the sides, but what we're going to do is we're going to put the tape on one side. I'm just going to trim that down. Okay, and we're going to do the same on the other side. Now, doing it this way, I'll show you a subtle difference of doing it. It's not a complete remedy for doing this, but it will give us a bit of a helping hand. Okay, so I'm just going to fold them back on themselves. Okay, and I'm just going to do one at a time. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put one of our black strips in on that already. Okay, don't worry too much about the top, because when the top gets put around, that will just come in a bit. What we're trying to do is just cover up the inside of the construction board. So let's get my glue. It's just easier if you can at least get some of this done while we're doing this. Okay, so right, okay, I'm just going to tuck that in there. And I know I've got a bit of showing at the top here, but that what will happen there is that once that black tape goes in and around at the top, that will just cover that up. And the reason I'm using black on the inside of all of them is obviously, one, it covers up the construction board, and two, it sort of blends in together. And while we're at it, we're going to stick our, that one I want for the outside, we're going to stick some black on this little square in here, because trust me, it is not easy trying to get a little black square all the way down to the bottom of this tall unit that we're making on this tall box. Okay, all right, so now I've got that done, I can now stick this side up. So let's just pop that glue in there. Okay, and as this comes up, that's now going to come in, and we're just going to fold that in like so. Okay, just take those odd little bits over, just turn that over. Right, okay, so I'm going to leave this one here for the minute, because that will be one of the last ones. So I'm now going to run some black tape. Actually, we'll do black tape along that edge, and then I can stick the next bit in. There we go. So let's cut like that. There we are. I told you it's a little bit fiddly. So we're now going to run that. Make sure that's going along that edge. Okay, that will fold back like so, and I'm now going to glue this one in. Make sure that's stuck down properly. Yeah, right, okay. Add a little bit of glue. It just will hopefully make this easier, because when I made my first one of these, I made up all the boxes. I was starting to make up all the boxes, and then I realised I then had to drop the black card in, and I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute, Deb, how are you going to do that? So okay, so that's now gone in and sticking down like so. Okay, so I'm going to just fold that back. And now this one will go up and join on there. So already we've managed to get two sides done. Just running my fingers down on the inside of that. Right, let's just snip that at the top. Fold those over. Okay, whoops, got me glue out the way. All right, so what we're going to do now is run some more black tape down this side, and I'm going to put the other one in. So let's just cut a length of black tape. Okay, I know it's a bit hard for you to see this bit, but I'll show you Well, you know what we were doing on the last ones. So I'm going to run that black tape all the way along. Okay, so that's now all the way along that. I'm just going to fold that, and I'm now going to tuck that next bit of black paper in there. Go. Like so. Let's get loads of glue on that. Go. So you want those to stick down. And I'm just going to slide this in. So this is a little bit tricky. So let's just bring that tape over for a minute. So it's out the way. I don't know if you can see. I'm just going to go in and drop that in situ. And I'm making sure that I've got it lined up with the other ones. Making sure I've covered all the black. Okay, so we've got those bits done, those bits, and now the last bit is this bit, which is just our last one then, our fiddly one to work with. Okay, so let's just cut you, because you're going to end up and stick down onto that one. All right, okay, and so that's now going to come up. Let's do one side at a time. That's it, that's sort of caught. Just going to pop that over there, and the other side just needs to tuck in. Come on, that's it. Like I said, it's a little bit fiddly. Okay, that now goes in, and I'm going to sandwich that one together. Okay, so I've now just got one side that hasn't been decorated on the inside. So I've got my lovely long ruler, and I'm just going to go in, and I'm just going to make sure that that construction tape is stuck. And because it's square at the bottom, I can get right into those corners. I sort of feel it. And I've got a fairly strong ruler. This is my Tim Holtz one with the metal edge that I'm using. So I just get a nice finish on that. And then the last thing to do then is to put this other panel in on here. Okay, so I'm just going to, so we are doing this a little bit different on this one. It's only because that it's so tall. Okay, and just now going to, so you can see one, two, three sides. So I'm just going to slide that one in. Now you could do this right at the very end if you really wanted it. But I thought I'd just show you another way of doing this. Okay, so that's now gone in. So they're all our four sides and the bottom done. And now I'm going to come and do the tape on the outside. Okay, and I'm just going to take that over a little bit. Okay, so let's just make sure that's nice and square. Okay. Oops, didn't quite mean to stick that two together like that. Oh. It's always one, isn't there? Right, let's just take that back and cut that bit off. Okay. There we go. That's all right. It's always one bit. It always sticks to itself, this stuff. I mean, it's, like I said, it's good stuff, but not very forgiving. All right. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, let's try and fold that over like so. Right, let's snip that before I knock it and it funny shape. There we are. Okay, that's that one. Oh, I haven't done these two ends. Let's do this. Right, we're going to snip those. So one side go in and the other side like so. There we are. Okay, and then I've got the last two sides to do, and then the top, and then that's this one done. And then we've just got one more box to make, which is our, what I call the pencil box, but depends what you're going to put in it, really. So just tighten these corner edges up, make sure they're sitting nice and flush with one another. Now, obviously in my instructions I've put that you can, you know, use your construction board sheets and that and just sort of cut them down. But if you've got lots of scraps left over, then obviously you can make one of these using a lot of your scraps because of the smaller elements and stuff in it. And to be honest, when I first made this box, that's what I used. I used a load of scraps that I had of construction board, because I always found that let's just run that down there. There we go. I'm always got loads of bits left over that are funny dents and things like that. So I just made this up. But there's nothing. Oh, I've done the same again on that one. There's nothing to say that you can't obviously use your own good sheets of construction board, but trying to save a little bit of money, then yeah, by all means use up your scraps where you can. Right, okay, I'm just going to tuck that in like so. So we've now got our 4 sides secure. Obviously you can't see at the bottom, which is good because that's all been blacked out. And now I'm going to do the tape coming round on the top. Okay. Let's just give that a little trim. And that could just go over nicely. And it secures everything in place. So there we have it. Our tool box. Try saying that. Tool box. Or box for putting your rulers in, or long paint brushes maybe, or perhaps blusher brushes or things like that. I don't know if you're making this as a gift and having it as a makeup box, but yeah, or paint brushes. You could put lots of tool paint brushes in there. Now obviously if you decide you don't want it this tall, then you don't have to make it this tall. You can cut down the dimensions a little bit, but I just wanted to show you different ideas. Okay, right, and that is our box done. That's actually got all our black stuff in there, so that will just sit in. It's a snug fit, but it will sit in there. Okay, all right, because we've got a little bit of movement on here, but what I love about this is that you can take these out. Let's just give that a little bit of a pinch. Oh, got glue stuck on my fingers. Okay, but you can move these elements about, so you could have it over this side if you wanted, or you could take it out and you could put it over this side. So you know, you can move these things around a bit. It's really up to you, and you can just take out what you want. See, that could tuck in down the side there, you know, and then we could have another one, but you can play with this at your heart's content. Right, I've just realised that's not quite square, so I might need to manipulate that just a little bit, but you get the idea. So we've got 1, 2, 3 boxes already done. Okay, and we've just got the final one to do. which we're going to carry on. Oh yes, this other base bit, this will actually stick on the bottom there just to cover up the bottom, unless you're going to put patterned paper on it, but to be perfectly honest, you're better off covering it in black because you're not really gonna see that. So I'm just going to stick that one on. Right, okay, I'm going to stick that one on there like so. Okay, right, so that one is well and truly done now. Okay, and yes, nice for a long ruler, or as I said, some paintbrushes or something along those lines. Okay, so our next one we're going to be making is our pencil box. So let me just clear all this and we'll get that out. Right, so now we're on to the pencil box, as I call it, but you could, as I've said earlier, you can use it for any other item. I had to think of my words then for a minute. Right, okay, let's get my base. I've got my two sides, my back and my front. So let's get the back on first. So again, exactly the same as we did before. So I'm just going to tuck that on there. Okay. Now the back is 5 1/8 and 5 inches, so we've got to make sure that we stick it on the right way round. So that is, there we go. Right, so make sure we've got the right way. So I'm just again going to drop that on like so. There we go. Let's just tuck you in there, wrap you round, a bit of tape going across. Just give that a little cut. That's it, wrap that round and that one round. Perfect. And that one on like so. A bit of tape around the edges, and then we just another strip like so. There we go. Right, move that round, and now we've got the sides. Now before I add this on, I just want to check to see how this is sliding in and out. Okay, that's good, because this is the final box going in, and if I need to make any alterations, then I need to sort of do that now, but everything seems to be fairly okay. So I'm just gonna stick that on there. That's our side, like so. Okay, I'll just just fold round. That's it. That one comes round on that side. There we go. I'm just going to add another bit of tape coming across, so that covers that. Now again, this could be a little tricky to get on the inside, although it's not as tall as our tall one. So what I will do is I will stick the base on the inside in before I glue the sides up, just so I can get that in. Right, okay, and now the final side. Can you believe it? We've nearly got all our boxes made. And then the fun starts, because then we can start decorating. Okay. Stick the tape on there like that. There we go, just line it up, make sure I'm leaving the gap as always, just to allow for that to, there we are. Right, just give that a little go. And then our last bit on here. Okay, I'll just put that down on there. All right. And then we're just on the sides and everything else. Okay, so we'll turn that round, There we go. All right, so that's all our base done. So again, I'm just going to check to see how they are sitting, if they're sitting flush before we glue them. Now you'll notice that the front of this, we've got this step coming down. Okay, that is intentional. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure the back bits are working all right. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's just get my pieces. Now some of these look fairly similar, but the two bases are slightly longer. I'll just double check, yeah, they're slightly longer. So these are my bases. So I've done a base for the inside and I've done one for the outside. So I'm just gonna stick that one down. Get that out of the way. And then we can start gluing up the sides and everything else. Pop that in there. Let's flip you over. Okay, and again, I've just been using up scraps for my black card. I have put measurements in your instructions, but so mine is slightly adrift. It's only because I've been using up some scraps. Okay, so let's start off with our first side. Let's stick you down. Let's cut you. So I'm just going to come in and do the other side. There we go. Right, okay. I'm just going to fold those back. That's it, give them a little crease. And now we're going to pull those up. I'm going to stick that one. So it's flush with that. While I'm holding that in place, I'm just going to run my hand down the inside, catch that tape. I can go along with my bone folder. That's it, make sure that's gone in nicely. A little bit at the top there, let's just fold that over. Okay, and then we're going to come up and do the other side. Again, I'm just making sure that's nice and flush. Run it up, finger on the inside. Coming over at the top. Bone folder in there, give that a good smooth out. Right, okay. Right, and now we've just got these two shorter sides. Okay, I'm just going to tape that. There you go. Okay, that's one side. And we'll do the other side. Quite gone down to the edge, so I'm just going to gently peel that off and realign that on that one. There you go. Okay, right, now I'm just going to take this up and again feel with my fingers and run that on the inside down. So that's holding that in place, and this one again is just holding that down. So I can just get my hand in there and I can just feel how that is lining up. And I'll just get my bone folder, just give that a little run along there, make sure that's nice and smooth. Be stuck. Okay, I've got a little bit coming over the top there. Right, I'm going to put that over. Just check on the inside. I can see that part of that's not stuck down. There you go. Right, okay. Just see a little bit in there. Just needs a little bit of. All right, okay, so now we're just going to do the outsides. Exactly the same as we've done before, but I'm just going to bring this up just over that because I just want a bit to tuck in over that edge on the front piece. There we go. Just fold that down. Okay, I'll give that a little snip. Tuck that in. Actually, I'm just going to take that off at an angle a little bit because when I cut that straight, it wasn't quite straight. So let's take off a little bit. Oops, stuck to my finger, like with everything. Okay, and then we're just going to fold that down like so. And now this top bit, I'm just going to come in again on a diagonal. I'm just going to fold that over and in, and that bit can go in on there. All right, now I have noticed I've got a little bit of the construction board showing there, so I could, while I haven't finished it yet, I can just go in and tuck that in with a bit of Sharpie pen. Right, okay, and let's do the other side. Okay, let's give that a little trim, like so. Make sure that that is nicely joined together. Okay. Right, let's cut to the bottom bit. Fold that in. Oops. Fold that in. Like so. And then I'm just going to cut that. And again, I'm going to tuck that round. And I'm going to tuck that round like that. Just check that corner. Is there any? No, I think that'll be all right, that side. Right, okay, and then our last two sides. Like so. Okay. There we go. Stick together. There we go. Stick that on there. Again, I'm just going to trim that one with a slight diagonal. That's it. Just gives it a neater finish on the bottom. And our last corner but one. All right, tuck you in over there. Now I can see I've got a tiny little bit of construction board. Let's just dab you in there. Okay. And our last one. And colour you in as well. Right. Now I've given it a drop front on this box, just so it makes, so if you've got loads of pencils or something like that in it, it will just help make it easier to get them out. is why I've designed this one as I have. Okay, so I sort of try to have purpose for all the boxes. So like the little box, it can be used for all your little maybe your little bulldog clips or something along those lines. The shallow long box, you can actually get some tapes and that in there, which is always handy, or you can put in some punches in there. And then obviously this box, put in your pencils in, so you can sort of get to those, and then your tall ones, obviously like all your longer stuff. Right, okay, so now we've got the base box done. We've just got to finish off this top edge. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come along and do the front edge first. So I'm just going to cut that down to size. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that on there, run that along like I did. That's fairly okay, and now I'm just going to smooth that out all the way along. Okay, because what we're doing with this black tape is literally just covering up the edges of the construction board. Okay, right, back bits. Okay, so we're going to sit you on there, run you along. Okay, increase that, that's it, and now we're just going to smooth that down like so. And now we're going to come along and down. Okay, so I'm going to cut that a little bit longer because I want a bit of wiggle room with this. Right, okay, so doing this bit, so I'm coming along, got my edge showing there. That's going to fold right down the front. Okay, so I've now got this sort of like L shape. I've got this corner bit here, so I'm going to snip the corner in half in there. I'm just going to get my, like so. All right, this bit here I'm just going to come in and cut at an angle so I can tuck that bit down. Okay, this bit as that comes round now, I'm going to cut that bit like so as well. And now you can see that this has got a diagonal angle to it, so I'm going to attempt to cut a little diagonal out of that. I'm going to push that side down, so that should now sit quite nicely in there. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this flap here, so I'm just going to snip off. It's a little bit fiddly, but I'll take that bit off. Oh, come on, that's it. Right, these tiny little sort of angles. All right, and that can push down in on there like so. This bit coming over here, I'm just going to take an angle to that and just fold that round, and then we're just left with the front bit. Okay, no, it's just shadow. For a minute I thought I could see a bit of construction board showing on there, but it's just the light showing. I think, yeah, it's just the light. Is it not just the light showing? No, I don't think it is. I'm just going to tack a little bit, just a little bit in there. Might have been when I stretched it over. Right, okay. All right, and now this front bit, I'm going to come in at an angle. I'm going to take this off at an angle. A little diamond shape angle. So I can now fold that one down. That one can come in over the top. Okay, and this one can come round. And I'm just going to take a tiny little I'm almost mitering the corners is what I'm doing. There we go, that works on that one. So we've got a nice neat finish on that one. And then we're gonna just repeat it and do exactly the same on the other one. Okay, so just gonna bring the tape across the top, center that, whoops. Let's give myself a bit more tape. That's got to come down. I'm just gonna snip that off. Right, let's get that tape out of the way. So just trying to keep this all squared. Okay, so that's going to come over the top. This one's going to come round and down the back. And now I can just go in and cut the angles. So that one can fold in around there. Okay. I'm getting stuck with all the fiddly little bits. Tape. Right, I'm going to cut on there. Take that angle out. And just fold that one in. Like so. Just going to miter that little corner a little bit. Run that along there. That will come down. Okay, so we've got this taut bit over this side, and again, while that is taut, I can go in and cut. I'm going to come in at an angle on that one, so that can now tuck in down there. Cut a little angle on this one, and a little angle on this one. And like that should now fold in down there, like so. Give that all a good squeeze. And then the final one here, I'm just going to come in and do an angle. Now, some might argue that perhaps I should have done this bit last to cover up that bit, and quite possibly I should have done, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it is all wrapped. I think that is just shine where that, I thought that was construction board showing, but it's not. Okay, so here we are. So we now have our pencil box, which is sitting in quite nicely. We've got our tall box, we've got our shallow long box, and our little square one. I've gone ahead and I've lined all my little boxes with the black card stock. Okay, just the same as I did on the tall one. All right, now this is the base box. So I've already gone in and lined the base, the front and the back and the bottom, but I wanted to just show you how I did the sides. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those bits all out of the way. So I've got my little mat, and let's just get my little ruler and a pencil. Okay, so this measurement is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. Okay, and what we're going to do is mark on 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to bring that down 3/4 of an inch, like so, on that side. And then coming up from the bottom is 2 and should I say a half or 2 1/4? What did I do last time? I did 2 1/2 last time, so we're coming down by 1/4 of an inch. So it's 2 1/4. So let's just mark those on with the pencil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test this up against it. So when this goes on, you've got like an 1/8 of an inch gap going round, and I'm just checking to see that that is going to sit in. So you can see here where that point is there, it's going to come in just nice, and it's going to bring that line down to that bit. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that on my sheet just to make sure that I do write that in properly. There we go. Right, okay, so 2 2 1/4 at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is literally cut that bit off like so. Where did I put my lovely knife? Here we are. Okay, and because it's on black card, I can just sort of now test that and see on the outside, because that's what's going to be going in on the inside, so that works fine. So I'm going to do exactly the same on this other one. I'm going to mark at 3/4. Let's just give that a little mark there on 3/4, and then 2 1/4 come in from the bottom there. 2 1/4. Let's have a little look. Okay, and now I'm going to cut that across, making sure I've got it lined up. Now it's fairly easy to do this when it's on black cardstock, but when we come to do the pattern paper, we're going to have to be wary of how we cut these. But when we come to that bit, I'll show you that bit. So I've got one bit that's going to go on the inside on here, and this bit will go on the inside there. Now, as you can see, I've got the pencil marks showing on that side. So I'm just going to rub them off. That's why we did this in pencil, like so. Okay. And I'm just going to add some glue onto here. So this is going in that way. So I've just got to make sure I've got these going in the right way into the box. Otherwise I'll end up putting the glue on the wrong side, and we'll get and it will think it's going on the outside of the box when in fact it's going on the inside. Okay, so let's just pop that in. Let's just move you out of the way for the minute. That's ready on the right side. So I'm just going to drop this in. Now, where I've already pre-put the other papers in, just try and make sure that you line up your tops with that. And as I said, I'm allowing about a 1/8 of an inch sort of gap going all the way round. Okay, that's pretty close. So I'm just going to give that a good squish down like so. And now we're just going to do the other side. So again, I'm just checking which way that glue's got to go on. So it's going on that side. So yeah, so when we come to do the patterned paper, we'll have to cut one going one way and one going the other way, like upside, well, back to front sort of thing. But you'll see when we get to do that bit. Okay. So now I'm just going to again tuck that in, make sure I've got that lined up, and that is fairly straight. It's quite a nice snug fit on there. Making sure I'm getting that angle coming down. Got a bit of glue on there. How did I manage that? No idea. Okay. All right. Give that a little rub. And now I can just press that down and do that. So, right, let's just move that out of the way. So here we have then our internal box lined already for our main box, and then we've got our toolbox. We've got our little pencil box that sits in there just nicely. We've got our little square box, and we've got our little long shallow box, which all has a good nice neat fit to it. Okay, right, so the next stage is to decorate it. So just to give you a tip, obviously the papers that I'm going to choose are going to be cut exactly the same size as the black cardstock, because we know it works well because it fits in line with what is inside the boxes. So as a little rule of thumb, you know, you can sort of follow through those, but I have written them on the pattern separate anyway. Okay, so right, so I've picked a lovely paper to decorate my boxes with, which is all to do with bees and the beehive and honeycomb and so forth. I love bee paper. In fact, actually, the name Deborah means the bee, would you believe it? I think that's probably because I'm busy as a bee, but there we go. Anyway, so I've gone ahead and I've decorated these. Now, I have put on the cutting and scoring instructions the sizes of the patterned papers for you to sort of cut out. But what I will say is depending on how you've assembled, some of these papers might need a slight adjustment by maybe 1/8 of an inch. Okay, it really depends on your joints as to where you sort of taped these sides and stuff together, as to whether or not you need to sort of make any slight adjustments. So although I have given you a guide on there, just be wary of that. Okay, and prime example is that on the back and on the front, I've had to add in an extra 1/8 of an inch to my measurements that I've put on the pattern. Okay, so I just wanted to sort of give you a heads up on that before we start. Now, as you can see here, I've decorated the toolbox. I've decorated the lovely little pencil box. Now, the pencil box one, I've actually taken all the other papers that I've used and decorated that. So it sort of brings it all together. The little shallow long box that just tucks in there, and then our little short box. Okay, so that's all of that done. What I haven't done yet is decorated the two sides. Okay, so I wanted to show you how to do that, because obviously we need to cut the shape down, and I just wanted to give you the couple of tips that I've got on that. Right, so here we are. This is my papers that I'm going to use for the side. I've decided to take the same paper as the back, just so it sort of brings it round together. Now, on your cutting and scoring instructions, I've written here where it says measurements for diagonal cut 3/4 of an inch and 2/4 of an inch. Okay, so we're just going to see, because I think before I had it at 2.5 and 1 inch, so we've taken 1/4 of an inch off. Now, the thing is that with these, we need to make sure that we are cutting these the right way. It didn't matter so much on the black card, because obviously when we put the black card on the inside, it didn't matter because it was black card. But now we've got patterned paper, we need to be aware of that. So I'm going to start off with the right hand side first. Now, this is just a square. Okay, it's a 4 3/4 inch square. Okay, and I'm going to need to put my measurements on here and here. So if I do this on the back of this one, so I've got my little ruler, so we've got 3/4 of an inch coming in. I'm just going to mark that as 3/4 of an inch, and then coming up by 2 1/4, 2 inches and 1/4. Where are we? Measure twice, cut once. So just seeing how that is. So when I cut that, that is going to fit up going that way. So let's just do that. Just line this up on here. There we go. Right, let's just get my... Okay, before I move ahead with it, I'm just going to measure, put this up here just to see how we're doing. And that's not bad at all. So I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so I know that's that one for that side. Now for this side, on the left-hand side, again, I need to do my 3/4 of an inch and so forth. So in order to get that paper cut the right way, I'm going to now mark it down here, 3/4 of an inch that way there, and so that's the 3/4 of an inch there, and I need to come down marking it off on this side, the 2/4, 2 1/4, where are we? So just mark it on there. So it's actually opposite. So when you look at the backs of the papers, you'll see that the measurements were coming in opposite, okay, because when we turn it over, then it will fit. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's just do this last little bit. Line that up. Okay, all right. So now I'm just measuring that against there, and that looks absolutely fine. So I'm quite happy with those. Now on each of the pages, pages, look at me. On each of the pieces of paper, okay, I've gone round and I've used a black distress ink, and I'm just using this just to cover up the white core so that when it's stuck against the black background it's not going to show too much. Using black soot, but you can do yours any colour, depends on your papers really. And although I've made this box and I've decorated it with the black tape and all the rest of it, depending on your paper you could sort of choose the paper for it to blend in better. Right, okay, we're going to put that to one side, and then I've got my little pen here, and I'm just going to faux stitch all the way round, which is what I've done on all the others. So if you're not sure what faux stitching is, it's a nice decorative finish to your paper. I just think it just gives it something, nice little edge to it. I'm just doing little dashes, but you can do lots of other designs if you want to, and that's absolutely fine. But for quickness for today, I'm just going to go along. If you're a little uneasy about doing it freehand, you can use a ruler, but to be honest, I'm just going for it. If they're a little bit wonky, you know what, to me it shows it's been handmade, been made with love. And then once this is all done, then with the papers, and then I suppose depending on the papers that you've used, would determine whether you want to go ahead and decorate the box any further. You could put some embellishment bits and pieces on there if you wanted to. Now, because this box is going to be for me, I'm quite happy with the bee paper as it is. But I could, I suppose, have cut out my name and put my name on the front maybe. But because it's for me, I know it's for me, I don't need to worry too much about that. But if you're giving this as a gift to somebody, you know, yeah, I think you could definitely put somebody's name on it, or a phrase, or a sentiment, or something like that. You know, so you can just go ahead and decorate however you wish. So I'm just going to pop along here, just do this one. And what's nice, actually, think about it, if you're giving this as a gift, you could actually fill it up with the goodies as well if you wanted to. So perhaps somebody's just getting into doing painting or crafting, or I had a epiphany, I suppose, I don't know, is that what you call it? You could actually use this as for a gardener. You could put like seed packets in there, and you know, you could put your string and your scissors and other bits and pieces in there as well. It could be sort of decorated up, you know, to fit in a tool shed, obviously craft room, sewing room maybe. You could sort of fill it with bobbins and various other bits and pieces. Yeah, it's like the world's your oyster, isn't it? Right, okay, so now I've done those on both sides. I'm just going to find my glue, and we're just going to, whoops, nice pages falling off there, and then I'm just going to glue these on, like so. There we go. I'll just run that around. Plenty of glue in the corners because we want it to stick. And here we go. So this one is coming in this side, and with all my measurements for my pattern papers for any of my projects that I do, I like to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap with the black showing. But if you don't want that, then you can take the papers up. You know, you can cut them slightly bigger. Well, I'm just going to turn that on that side. And then this is our desktop tidy organizer completed. So we can start 2026 getting organised, because I definitely need to get organised. Right, I'm just going to pop that on there like so. Just going to move that around a bit. So I'm just making sure I've got that nice straight edge coming along. But there we are. So let's just tuck these bits out the way. And there we are. Yes, absolutely. We have our desktop tidy organizer with removable boxes. So if you was doing a project or somewhere else, you could just grab the box that you want. And I just think it makes a lovely gift. Great. Anyway, if you do happen to go ahead and make yours, please pop your photos of your desktop tidy onto our Facebook page. We really love to see everybody's different designs and what you've done with them. That'd be absolutely fantastic. As I said, this video here is on YouTube, so if you ever want to come back to it, you can do. And you can download our cutting and scoring instructions off of our website, craftywafty.co.uk. And if you can either put in desktop tidy organizer, or you can put in downloads, and it will come up with all the other projects. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care. Bye.